Good morning. So today we're going to talk about how to run a cutoff on your material. Today, we're just going to want to cut off this piece here by slicing a line down the center here, so we have a usable working area for our future pieces without having to haul around this dead weight that's taken up by all of our previous cuts. So that being said, let's go ahead and move over to the computer real quick. Now on our computer, I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little. On our computer, forgive the shakiness of the camera here. On our computer, we're going to go up to config. Now in this case, we're cutting on 11 gauge. So 11 gauge with a Hypertherm 65 set on 65 amps, we know that the maximum speed, according to our Hypertherm manual, is going to be somewhere around 150 IPM for best cut settings. So that being the case, because if we tried to jog this machine now, let's go ahead and let me just show you here. If we tried to jog the machine now, so I'm moving it. If we try to jog the machine now, it's going to go at 400 inches per minute. Now, if we tried to turn on the plasma cutter, so we fire hitting F5, and we try to make that cut manually using our jog settings, your 65 amp actually won't pierce entirely through the material, as it's going far too fast to achieve proper pierce and proper cut. So what we're going to do is we're going to manually slow down the system using our config settings, which I'll show you here in just a second, and we're going to do a manual cut using jogging. So let me go ahead and show you how that's done. So as I was saying, we're going to go up into config. We're going to go into motor tuning. Now, anytime you're messing with motor tuning, you'll always have to remember to, there's two things. One, save your axis settings. So I'm going to change here. Down here is velocity or inches per minute. Let's go ahead and zoom in on that here. So I have my velocity, inches per minute, for my x-axis. I'm going to slow that down to 150 and hit save settings. Now this saves your profile settings. So when you want to go, this saves your profile settings permanently. So when you do open up your program the next time, it's going to be at 150 until you come back in and change it back to 400 IPM for your traditional jog settings. So we're going to go 150, hit save axis settings. We're going to go into our Y and drop that down to 150 inches per minute, hit save axis settings, and change our A to 150 per minute and hit save axis settings. All of that being said, now we hit OK. Now remember, when you change your axis settings, your Y and your A have to be at the exact same speed. If they're not, you're going to damage your machine simply because the A is a slave motor to the Y axis motor. So you'll see an inconsistency develop there. It'll actually torque that center beam completely off, and you don't want to see that happen. So make sure that your Y and A are moving at the exact same velocity or exact same IPM. We hit OK, and let's go ahead and take a look at our table now. Let's go ahead and zoom back there. All right. Now when I try to move my axis, it's moving at a much slower speed, which is actually the actual cutting speed necessary to achieve the cutoff that we're going to do. So as we said, we're going to start our cut. Now I'm literally going to be hitting the firing button, F5, and march it from the back to the front using just the down button, because that's our Y and A axis travel, and we're cutting along the Y and A axis. Now you could technically, with this firing, move it around in any shape you want using your up, down, left, right keys, and you can make some fancy cuts. However, in this case, we're only cutting off this piece. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm centering my tool at the far edge of my piece. I make sure that it's sitting so that it catches material just enough for us to achieve a proper pierce and to start cutting accurate. You don't have to zero anything out, you don't have to do anything else. You change your motor config settings, you hit F5 and then you hit down. So let's go ahead and do that now. And that is how we achieve a proper cutoff. So after you've completed this, what we're going to do, we're going to run over to our computer again. We're going to hit config, motor tuning. I'm going to go ahead and go back through and bring everything back to 400. Now you want to make sure you do this, as this motor configuration also limits how fast your cuts go on any of your alternate cuts. So let's say you had an art file that was on 16 gauge going 350 inches per minute with a 45 amp plasma tip. If your motor settings were still set to 150 within Mach 3, your machine, even when the file says go 350 inches per minute, your machine won't go past what this motor tuning setting is set to, which is in this case, 140 inches per minute. So it's absolutely critical that you go ahead and reset all of your motor settings back to your 400 inches per minute, which will come back down to 400.02 inches per minute. Then we hit OK, and now we're back to normal jogging. So there you go. That's how we typically run cutoffs here on our machine. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll get you from there.